Some of the most damaging relationships are the hardest ones to explain, and they don't have to look extreme in order to be deeply harmful. Welcome to the Covert Narcissism Podcast, where we make sense of what never quite made sense. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more, it's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin moving forward. You need a coach. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. I was 17 years into my marriage when I first read the words covert narcissism. Now, these words did not mean anything to me. They didn't jump off the page and land in my heart. But there were other words that certainly did. Words like circular conversations from hell, walking on eggshells, apologizing for things you don't understand, gaslit until you doubt your own memory, twisting your words until you don't recognize them, walking away more confused than when you walked in. These words landed for me. There were others, living two versions of the same person, the one the world sees and the one that you live with. The relationship that looks fine from the outside and feels like drowning from the inside. Loneliness inside your own marriage. Unseen even when you're being looked right at. Exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. I couldn't stop reading because all of these words landed with me. There were more. Feeling guilty for having needs. Never measuring up. Never good enough. Responsible for feelings that were never yours to carry. Working overtime for basic human decency. Love that feels like a performance review. And conversations that end with you comforting them for hurting you. Now, when I read these words spoke truth to me. When you read words that resonate so deeply inside of you somewhere, you know they are true. It's literally like they just jump off the page and grab you. Last week, I talked about hitting this wall where you can't unsee this anymore. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know it, you can't unknow it. And it's like you hit a wall. But now with that wall, you are struggling to keep living a lie because you can't. You're now in just torment inside of you with your mind and body rebelling against each other. I told you that hitting that wall is not the end, and I mean that. It's not. It is the beginning of your truth. Now, I also want to be very honest with you about something else. The beginning of finding this truth is often not peaceful. It is extremely validating, yes, and it usually brings a huge sigh of relief. But that relief quickly disappears because now you have to face this truth. So maybe you start speaking it. And we've talked before about speaking it out loud the first time you speak it to a safe person in your life. But what about the first time you speak it to the covert narcissist? Because speaking your truth does include them. And the aftermath of confronting a covert narcissist, of finally saying out loud what you can no longer live with or what you're struggling with or why you're hurting, is often the hardest season of this entire journey. And I know this because I lived it. When I started speaking these words to him, for starters, I felt terrified. Everything in me, it took all the courage I could muster to be able to speak these words to him. Now, there also was an element of relief because I was finally giving voice to my feelings with words that truly matched how I felt. But it also took a huge amount of courage to do it. So the relief was short-lived. What I felt now was the weight of everything I was saying, the weight of everything I was putting into motion. This was a life that I had built, that we had built, a family that I had poured myself into and given it everything I had. A dynamic that I had spent years trying to fix and maintain, as well as a truth that I could not run from anymore. And now all of this was in motion in kind of like a free fall. The person on the other side of this, the person that I had just confronted with the truth of what I could no longer carry, he did not simply accept it or agree with it or sit with it and hear me out. No, they never do. So today we're going to talk about what happens after you've hit that wall, the aftermath, what your covert narcissist does after the confrontation when you start speaking your truth, what happens inside of you, the emotional whiplash, the self-doubt, the disorienting loneliness of having told the truth and still feeling unheard. What happens to your children, to your extended family, and what you actually need in this season, not just to survive it, but to begin to move through it. Now, if you missed last week's episode, I do want to encourage you to go back and listen to it, because the foundation we laid there is about hitting that wall, that confrontation. Now, let's start with what happens with the covert narcissist here, because understanding what is coming will help you to kind of keep your footing when it arrives. When a covert narcissist realizes that the dynamic, the system that they have built, the cult of two that they've been carefully constructing, when they realize that this dynamic is under genuine threat by your awakening, their response is almost always driven by one thing: the need to regain control. Not to repair the relationship, mind you, not to hear your pain and help care for your feelings. No, it's to get control back. And the specific tactics, they will vary depending on your covert narcissist's particular patterns, but there are a handful of responses that do seem to show up pretty consistently. One of the most common responses is love bombing or hoovering. Suddenly, the person that has minimized your feelings for years is incredibly attentive. Suddenly, they are saying the things that you have been longing to hear. Suddenly, they are the partner, the parent, the person you always wanted them to be. And I want you to be very careful here, because this can feel like hope. It can feel like change. It can feel like proof that maybe you were wrong. Maybe they can do this. They can get it. Maybe the relationship you always wanted is finally possible. Now, I struggle here personally a little bit with this podcast, because for some of you, I do certainly hope that that is true, and that maybe this is a moment of change for you. Maybe they did hit a wall too, and they will face this with you openly and honestly. But for many that are here, this is not change. It's a response to threat. The behavior shift is not coming from genuine insight or accountability. It's coming from the fear of losing their supply, you. It's coming from the fear of losing their control over you and the structure of this life that they have built around you. And when the threat passes, because, you got hopeful and thought they were going to change, when you believe they're back and that the crisis is over, or they believe that you're back and the crisis is over, then their behavior, it returns to baseline. Now, if you are feeling the strong urge to give your relationship one more chance, then do so. I will never fault anyone for that. This is a marriage, a family unit, a commitment that you don't take lightly. But do this with your eyes wide open. Listen to your heart along the way. And if this relationship returns to that baseline even once or twice, then their promise of change might be more of finding the right words to say to get you to shut up. Recognizing love bombing for what it is does not mean you are being cold or uncharitable. It means you are paying attention to the pattern over time rather than the performance in the moment. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, some covert narcissists respond to the loss of control with escalation, increased criticism, emotional withdrawal as punishment, anger that is disproportionate to anything you have done. You are trying to be honest and open with your feelings to connect with them, and they are trying to intimidate you out of your feelings. They may become more volatile, more aggressive, more relentless in their efforts to destabilize you. This response, consciously or not, is designed to make you feel like the confrontation was a mistake, like you broke something that you had better fix, like this version of them is your fault. Covert narcissists are extremely skilled at presenting themselves as the wounded party. They may frame what happened, which is what? Your openness, your honesty with them, your statement of your truth. They may frame this as an attack on them. In fact, you might need to expect that. Now, a smear campaign may be another thing that follows this. They may begin working on the people around you, family members, mutual friends, sometimes even your own children, shaping a narrative in which you are the problem. And this is one of the most painful parts in the aftermath, is watching someone take your private pain and repackage it into a story where they are the hero and you are the villain. And when the world around you only sees the hero side of them, this gets incredibly difficult. We will come back to this in a minute when we talk about the family piece. Regardless of which response your covert narcissist takes, your job is not to manage their reaction. It is not to fix it, to soften it, or to respond to it in any way that makes it stop. Your job is to stay anchored to what you know to be true for you. Your feelings get to matter. Their response, whatever form it takes, is a continuation of the same dynamic you have already been living in. It is a system trying to reestablish itself. Recognizing it for what it is creates a little bit of space between you and the pull of it. And that space, that's where your awareness lives, and it's where your healing happens. Now let's talk about what the internal experience is inside of you during this phase I'm calling the aftermath. If you do not know what to expect, it can certainly feel like you are losing your mind. The aftermath is not one emotion. It is many emotions, and they're often all arriving at the exact same time, and they often all contradict each other. Now, I picture that movie Inside Out. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's a great movie. Go watch it. Where each emotion inside of you has its own personality and its own character. Well, in a moment of crisis, they all go charging through the door at the same time. And they get stuck in the door frame, and now they're yelling at each other and blaming each other for being stuck in the door frame. And I think this visual is exactly what happens inside of us when all of our feelings all of a sudden all try to come out at the same time. What they don't do is calmly get in line and let us greet each one individually. Now it's time for sadness to walk through the door. Now it's time for anger to walk through the door. No, they don't take turns. They all try to pile through me at the same time. Now, some of the main ones here that go charging through that door are grief, anger, relief, guilt, fear, desperation. Let's talk about some of these. You may feel grief, genuine, deep grief for the relationship that you wanted, the family that you hoped for, the version of this person that you fell in love with. That grief is real, and it deserves space. It deserves to walk through that door. You may feel anger, a kind of anger that maybe even surprises you. Maybe it's intense, especially if you have spent years keeping it carefully managed and tucked away. You may feel relief and then feel guilty for being relieved, as if relief means that you don't love them enough or you didn't try hard enough. Again, these feelings matter and they need a space to exist. You may feel fear about finances, about the children, about what life looks like on the other side of this, about being alone. And you may feel desperation, an intense sense of urgency to do something about all of this, but no clear path on what to do. All of this is normal. All of it makes sense. You cannot tackle all of this at once, and you are not unstable because you are feeling all of these things at once. You are human, and you are walking through one of the hardest things a person can walk through. Now let's talk about the second guessing, because that's going to happen with almost everybody I've ever met in this situation. So you've hit the wall that you can't live this lie anymore. You found some clarity, some awareness, some language that matches what you're living. You said the words out loud and your feelings exploded. You survived all of that. But now what? Now here you are a week later, maybe a few weeks later, and doubt starts to creep back in. Did I do the right thing? Was I too harsh? Maybe they really are trying to change this time. Maybe I gave up too soon. Maybe I am the problem after all. This is years of trained self-doubt reasserting itself, and it's often amplified by whatever your covert narcissist is currently doing or saying to pull you back in. When the doubt comes, and it will, I want you to go back to when you hit that wall. Go back to the exhaustion, to the moment that your body was rebelling, to the thing that cracked your eyes open to this. Go back to those words that jumped off the page at you. You didn't make them resonate in your heart. They resonated for a reason. This is from years of lived experience, and it deserves more weight than a few days of someone's changed behavior. Let's talk about the loneliness of telling the truth. There is a particular kind of loneliness in this season that is so hard to describe unless you have lived it. You have finally said the truth out loud, maybe for the first time, certainly for the first time to this person who most needed it to be said. But you still don't feel heard. Instead of relief, you are navigating a more complicated version of the same dynamic you were already living in. To the outside world, to the people who don't understand covert narcissism, by the way, when you try to explain it to them, don't use the words covert narcissism. Use the words that jumped off the page at you. But recognize that what is happening in your home may still be invisible to them. You may not be able to explain it in a way that lands for them. You may have people in your life who are questioning your perceptions, taking sides, or offering advice that's well-meaning, but completely misses the reality of what you are living. That takes the isolation that you already feel, and it drives it in even deeper. This is one of the main reasons that having the right type of support in this season is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Do not underestimate the value of support during this time. Now let's talk about your body. It has registered the impact of this kind of relationship. The muscle tension, the inflammation, the fatigue, the physical symptoms that accompany years of chronic stress. So what happens now? Well, often this magnifies too. The body continues to carry the weight, and the weight just gets heavier. You may notice heightened anxiety, more disrupted sleep, a hypervigilance that does not seem to have an off switch because your nervous system has been on high alert for so long it does not yet know how to rest. This is your body processing trauma. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you, and this is not a permanent thing you're going to go through. It is a sign that something was done to you, and your system is trying to work through it. Now, you may begin to have moments of relief physically. Maybe you have moments of peaceful sleep because you're now speaking your truth. You might have moments of relief. Moments of your mind relaxing as it's developing a stronger relationship with your intuition and your nervous system. You may bounce hard back and forth between these moments of relief and moments of panicked anxiety. This is extremely common. Be patient with your body in this season. It has been carrying an enormous load, and it will need time to unwrap all of this. Now, what happens to your family during this aftermath? I want to touch on this briefly here because children and extended family are very much a part of this picture. I've spoken about the children many times, and I'm sure I will do so more in future episodes. Children are incredibly perceptive. Even young children absorb the emotional temperature of their home. The tension, the shift, the way the adults around them are moving through the world differently. They may not have language for it, but they see it. They feel it. They may start acting out. They may withdraw. They may ask questions that surprise you with their directness. But know that as the temperature in the home begins to change, they certainly feel it. Allow their feelings to have a voice. Allow them to ask their questions, even if you don't know how to answer them. Make this safe for them. Not with the covert narcissist as a parenting team. You are not a parenting team. And if you're with a covert narcissist, you have never been a parenting team. Let your relationship with each child be about you and that child. Be their safe space with them as they learn to find safety within themselves. Keep their routines as stable as possible, give them honest and age-appropriate answers to their questions, and make sure they know clearly and consistently that they are loved, that they are safe, that what is happening around them is not about them. Let's talk about the extended family. Covert narcissists are often well regarded outside of their home. They do present awfully well. They may have spent years, in fact, they often spend years, carefully cultivating a particular image. The devoted spouse, the involved parent, the patient and reasonable one. And this is how they present to the people around you. When the relationship fractures, they often move very quickly to shore up that image. Family members, mutual friends, people from your community may be told a version of events that positions you as unstable, unreasonable, at fault. Now, this version might be based on tiny little micro nuggets of truth that they have manipulated, and they are really good at that. Or it might be full of straight out lies. But the people around you, they might believe them. These people are sometimes called flying monkeys, not because they're bad people, but because they're being used, often without realizing it. They're being used to carry out a narrative on behalf of your covert narcissist. You do not have to defend yourself to everyone. In fact, you don't have to defend yourself to anyone. You do not have to convince people who you are or who you are not. Let your character speak for itself. Some people will come around when they start to see the pattern over time, but some won't. Your energy in this season is too precious to spend it trying to win over people who have already decided to listen to them. You do not need to prove yourself to someone who doesn't see you for who you are. Focus on the people who can actually hold space for you. They do exist, find them, and lean on them. Now let's talk about what you actually need during this time of the aftermath. I know this aftermath is painful. I've lived it. I get that. But you can either move through it or stay stuck inside of it. You're either going to be in pain and going through it or be in pain and stuck in it for longer. So let's find some forward momentum. Do not make permanent decisions when you're in the eye of the storm. The aftermath is not the time for your biggest decisions. If you are in the middle of the emotional whiplash, the sleep deprivation, the escalating pressure from your covert narcissist, that is not the moment to make irreversible choices about your finances, your living situation, or your relationships. Now, that does not mean do nothing, but it means being intentional about which decisions require immediate action and which ones can wait until you have more solid ground under your feet, even if that waiting is only a few days or a couple of weeks, but find that solid ground before you make those decisions. This might be deciding to take a week and spend it with a close friend rather than deciding whether to divorce right now. Start there. Start with something that feels more manageable and give yourself some time. Give yourself permission to slow down when the world around you is trying to speed you up. Next, find your safe people. Not everyone in your life is equipped to support you through this, and that is not a judgment of them. Covert narcissism is genuinely difficult for outsiders to understand. You need people who can hold what you are carrying without trying to fix it, without minimizing it, and without redirecting it back towards reconciliation. Safe people do not gaslight you. They do not tell you that you need to try harder, forgive faster, or see it from his or her side. They sit with you in the reality of what you are experiencing and what you are feeling. They believe you. They don't try to talk you out of your own feelings. If you do not have those people in your immediate circle right now, start looking for them. Finding the right community is one of the most powerful resources in this season. I also want you to put some grounding practices in place for this time of chaos. Your nervous system needs anchors right now. Simple, consistent things that bring you back into your body and out of that spiral. Because that spiral is where the covert narcissist voice lives, and it is extremely loud in the aftermath. Now, these grounding practices might look like a short walk outside every morning or journaling at the end of the day, not to process everything, but just to get it out of your head and onto paper. It might be a physical practice, movement, stretching, anything that asks your body to be present. Make time with people who make you feel like yourself. Now, this is not the same people who are your support group. That you may not have that yet. Keep looking for that. But these are people who just let you be spontaneously you. These are not indulgences. These are not extras that you get to after the crisis is handled. No, they are the foundation that allows you to handle the crisis in the first place. And finally, I will say, consider professional support. If you have access to a therapist who understands narcissistic abuse, this is the time to use that resource. Not because something is wrong with you, but because what you are navigating is genuinely complex. You deserve someone in your corner who is trained to help you carry it. I want to be very honest with you for a minute about the coaching piece, because I do work with people that are in this exact season. I have seen firsthand what changes when someone stops trying to navigate this alone. There is a point where understanding what is happening is not enough. There is a point where you need someone walking alongside you, helping you to apply what you already know and to begin actually moving forward rather than staying stuck in this cycle of knowing but not moving. I want you to know that the aftermath is not the end. I tell you this very sincerely. I know that it is hard. I know that it is disorienting. It is lonely in ways that are impossible to explain. You will have days where you question everything, where the doubt is louder than the clarity, where the grief is heavier than the relief, where you wonder if the wall that you hit is real or something that you made up. It was real. You know it was real. Your body knew it before your mind could fully name it. And as hard as this season is, it is not the end of your story. It is the place where your story starts to become yours again, where you begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that got buried under years of adapting, managing, and disappearing. You are not alone in this, and you do not have to figure it out by yourself. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. If you've been listening for a while, you may already understand what's happening in your relationship. You can see the patterns, you can name the behaviors, but maybe you still feel stuck in the same cycle. This is where coaching comes in. It's not about learning more. It's about having the support to finally apply what you already know and begin to move forward. If you're ready for that next step, I invite you to join me in my coaching program. You can learn more about it at covertnarcissism.com. Your story matters, and you deserve to be heard without judgment. Check out my coaching services at my website, again, covertnarcissism.com. And don't forget to subscribe, to thumbs up, to follow, to like this podcast so that you can get more empowering episodes like this one and to help us continue spreading the word so that our community can continue to grow. I wish you so much peace on your journey of healing. The information provided by Renee Swanson, Covert Narcissism Podcast, and CNG Life Coaching is for educational purposes only and is not to be used for diagnosis purposes and not intended to be a substitute for clinical care. Please consult a healthcare provider for guidance specific to your case. This material discusses narcissism in general. Renee shares stories from her personal experience as well as from those she has talked with for several years. Her material does not claim that any specific person has narcissism and should not be used to refer to any specific person as having narcissism. Permission is not granted to link to or repost this material to support any allegation or support a claim that any specific person is a narcissist. That would be an unauthorized misuse of this material and information provided.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.